We live in an era of change, as the old order that has existed for 1,000 years is about to be rewritten.
So it goes without saying that Keqing is one of the strongest physical damage dealers inside of the entire game of Genshin Impact, and in today's video I'm going to be bringing you guys basically my build and setup for her, and everything that I feel that is important for Keqing, and making her hit the highest possible crits that you can get. So without further ado guys, let's go ahead and hop right into the build. Starting off with the attributes, we have about 17k health, but of course, as we know, that doesn't really matter. For the attack, we have 1737, which clocks in a little bit short. I would say ideally try to get that up to 2000, but I'm not going to complain with 17k because I'll show you it makes up later. Elemental Mastery 77, because we're not running her as an electro damage dealer, that doesn't really matter that much either. We click on details real quick. We can see that our crit rate is at about 71.7%, and then for crit damage we have 159.6% crit damage. Now that is a really good ratio. That is about 1 to 2, a little over 1 to 2, but it's really nice because you're going to be hitting a lot of big numbers, like basically like 15k every hit of her charge attack. So energy recharge, we don't really need that, but that is there. And then the physical damage bonus is 83.3%, and that's the base physical damage unless you're using a weapon that'll buff it even higher. Moving on to the weapons, we are using the black sword, and the reason why is because of the crit rate. There's very few weapons that can even come close to this. Now the passive is what really makes it shine. It increases damage dealt by normal and charge attacks by 25%, which is crazy because you can it just helps her out a lot, especially as a physical damage, but I mean overall it just really amplifies her damage. And additionally regenerates 70% of attack as HP when normal charge attacks score a crit hit, which is really nice because she can basically carry some of her own heals. So I mean this alone makes it worth it, but this is also just a nice little bonus. So the best weapon in my opinion for a physical damage Keqing would be the Aquilus Favonia, but seeing that it is a 5-star, it's kind of very hard to obtain, especially for free-to-play players, and that's basically who this is aimed towards, because for the most part I am a free-to-play player. The reason why we are using the black sword is because obviously it's free-to-play friendly. With the Aquilus Favonia, with the physical damage buff and just the overall base attack, because it is a 5-star weapon, really just helps it shine on a physical damage Keqing build. So if you have that, I would highly recommend leveling that up and using that on Keqing. But the black sword, in my opinion, is probably one of the better options as well. If you do not have the black sword and you are completely free to play, you can always use Prototype Rancor. This is always a really good option. Either this, or if you happen to have the flute, this is also a good option for physical damage Keqing. But ideally you don't want to be using one of these two. This one's obviously very easy to obtain and also easy to refine as well. So if you are completely free to play and refuse to buy the paddle pass, I can completely understand you. And this also gives you a physical damage bonus. It doesn't have the crit rate like this one does, or the normal and charge attack damage, but it still is a very viable weapon if you don't have, you know, the black sword. Next up for artifact guys, there are two sets that you guys want to keep in mind. The first one being the Bloodstained Chivalry set, and this one is essential. You need that extra 25% physical damage bonus. And the second one being the Gladiator set. Now, because of how hard Gladiator sets are to obtain with, you know, good side stat, we don't have them in this build yet. We're still working on them, but ideally that's what you would have. But if you don't, I completely understand. We're only using a 2-piece set in this build, and we're still dealing a lot of damage. If you saw my last video, we were able to clear out Dvalin in just, you know, a few hits. It's crazy. So for our flower, we have some attack, crit damage. We do have a couple of different ones. Like I've been playing around like a 1 to 3 crit rate build where I have like, you know, 50% crit rate or 60% crit rate with like 180% crit damage. It's crazy. The reason why I have this on is because it does give me a little bit of extra attack, but more importantly, it gives us a 14% extra crit damage, which is really nice. This is overall a really good 5-star artifact. This is ideal. If this was crit rate, it would be perfect, but I'm not going to complain with that. For this one, obviously we're using this because it has the crit damage and the crit rate in here, as opposed to, you know, some of these were just gives me attack and some crit rate. But yeah, ideally we're going for crit damage and crit rate on all of these artifacts. For this one, this artifact has carried me so much. I've had this artifact for so long. It's a pretty good. I wish we rolled more on crit damage or crit rate, but it's not terrible. So we're going to be keeping an eye out on this. Overall, it's a pretty good hourglass. It's really strong. So because we don't have the set bonuses on any of these, we have to make sure that they're extra strong. So moving on to the goblet, you need to have a physical damage bonus. I mean, obviously for the physical damage build, if you were running electro damage bonus, obviously you need to go with electro goblet. But this is very important, and this isn't a perfect artifact by any means, but it is very strong considering that it does give us a 19.4% crit damage bonus and a 9.9% attack bonus. So those both help us out a lot. Energy recharge is always really nice, being able to keep her Q up. So overall, crit damage and crit rate are mostly what you're going to be going for in the side stats. And for this, we had to slap this one on because of the crit rate and because we rolled crit damage so much. Even though the other side stats are really bad, it's pretty hard for me to farm some of these. I've been experimenting with this one and trying to make this work, but it just doesn't add up because of how bad, how many times I rolled defense. It only gives a little bit of crit rate. This is the 1 to 3 crit damage build that I was talking about that I could rearrange, but overall, this one's a lot more consistent, having that 70% crit rate with, 160% crit damage. It's overall really nice. For Constellation, we're not going to be worrying about this because we are free-to-play players, and, unless you have her C6, I recommend going physical damage because it's a lot stronger unless you have, like, really god tier artifacts, but it just depends on how you would like to play her, honestly. It comes down to preferably. Talents, they're still pretty low, and the reason why is because I can't upgrade them because I don't have the right materials. Even though I do the stupid wolf every freaking week, I just can't upgrade the talents any higher than what they are, which sucks, but it is what it is. That's how this is looking right now. So overall, she does really good, and that's basically the base Keqing build. And then what we're gonna do from here is we're gonna go ahead and move on to the party, and then we're gonna go on to how to use her just in general in a typical battle, basically. So guys, for her party currently we are running Keqing, Kaya, Bennett, and Diluc. There's a couple reasons why we chose to go with this build. First reason is you need Kaya. He's the best, reaction with her being Superconduct, which decreases the enemy's physical resistance. So you need these two together. It's just like if you're using Keqing, you would use Xingqiu, or if you're using electro damage Keqing, you'd be using a Xingqiu here instead of Kaya, because you're going to be getting electro charge because you're going to be heavily reliant on her electro damage, not her physical damage. So we're going to get into how to use them together, but for party members, you definitely need Kaya at least in there. Not very many people can apply cryo as easily and as efficient as Kaya does, so I think Kaya is the strongest person that fills this cryo spot. Next up we have Bennett. I'm using him as my healer. That's about it. He just gets in, he does his heals, and that's about it. We're using Bennett for that. And for Diluc, we have very strong artifacts, so if I'm ever swapping between Keqing or if we're fighting some kind of different bosses that I need to use Diluc for, I can always trigger Melt with him and Kaya, and I also have really strong artifacts for Diluc. And also we're getting the Pyro, which gives us 25% attack, which is absolutely ridiculous. So this is the party that we're going with. Honestly, this is the spot where you're going to have some more flexibility. I mean, you could go with a lot of people. You could go with Sucrose, you could go Xingyang, you can go Xiangling, you can go, any of these characters. Diana if you wanted to. Which, by the way, Diana really does apply the cryo effect quite well as well. And I'm thinking about building her, but I'm going to keep her on the back burner for now. But yeah, think about Diana. She's also really good. And so that's about it for our party setup. Let's go ahead and hop into a little bit of gameplay, and I'll kind of explain how you should play Keqing in this build. So guys, when using Keqing, it's very basic to figure out how to use her, because Kaya can apply the cryo effect very easily and very simply, actually. So what you do is you come in with Kaya, you pop his E, you swap to Keqing, you pop her E, then you just do your charge attack. Now as you can see, that was 6k, but remember they stack, so 6 plus 7 is what, 13, right? So because of that 70% crit rate, I'm hitting crits a lot, like a ridiculous amount. So it's very simple and very easy. We're not having to swap between all of our party members all the time like we would in other different kind of builds. But for this, just having Kaya being able to pop his E, and even if you wanted to use her Q, that way, it gives her that extra crit rate, which is now at 86% opposed to 70%, which is ridiculous. Yeah, so if you keep her Q up as well, it also obviously boosts your crit rate, so that's another way to amplify your damage. So keep that in mind. But overall, it's a very simple build. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for my Keqing build, and I hope you guys all enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please make sure and like and or subscribe. It means the world to me. Let me know in the comment section if I missed anything, or if this video was at all helpful to you. That lets me know that you guys enjoy this kind of content and to make more of this kind of content. But yeah, overall, I love Keqing. She's my absolute favorite character, and her, seeing those white numbers on the screen is just ridiculous, and it's so much fun using her as a physical damage dealer. I used her for Electro a little bit, but honestly, I think I have more fun running her as a physical damage. Sorry. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.